Hello once again, it's Matthew from Matthew North Music, and today's video is going to be about some Record Store Day record releases. Now before I get into that, just want to say if you like these videos, please think about liking and subscribing to the channel, because it really does help the channel to grow, particularly if you're interested in things like records, music, modern and old technology, although more older technology has to be said. Anyway, Record Store Day 2023. Now, I'm not really a fan of Record Store Day. I think there's a lot of very overpriced stuff gets released. I don't think a lot of the releases are value for money. An awful lot of product that comes out on Record Store Day, it just isn't really new. And, you know, there's some things get released that you could probably find in the same record shop in their bargain bins. Anyway, this year there were two releases that were of interest. One was very much of interest, and the other I kind of thought as an afterthought. But the main release I was interested in was this album here. Now, this is the March Violets' Made Glorious album. Now, those who don't know who the March Violets are, they are a band from Leeds. They're a gothic rock band. They started around about the same time as the Sisters of Mercy, and they were very much like their mates. They worked together, they gigged together, they put records out on each other's labels. And Simon, the singer of the March Violets, was also a touring member of the Sisters of Mercy for about 20 years. Anyway, they kind of reformed in 2007, and I was actually very privileged to be in one of the bands that supported them at that memorable event up in Leeds that year. I was playing guitar for James Ray, who is also another former Sisters of Mercy alumni, and it was a really great evening. And eventually they got round to making an album. Now this is the album, because they never actually made an official album when they existed first time around. They just made singles and EPs, although there was a couple of albums released. There was one called Natural History, which was basically a very good compilation album of most of their main stuff from the early days, and there was an American album, I think, when Cleo Murray was singing in the band, but there wasn't like a definitive first March Violets album, and this is it. Now, when they made this album originally, it was done on Pledge Music. Now, if you don't know what Pledge Music is, Pledge Music was a crowdfunding platform. I used it myself for the Secrets of September album, and it worked very well. The problem was, Pledge Music decided they wanted to become Amazon, and so they started working as a retailer. Problem with that is they were buying lots of stock, weren't necessarily selling the stock, and they basically ran out of money and went bust. Had they just stayed as a crowdfunding platform, they would still be doing stuff now, and I might well have done some of my more recent releases on that platform. As it stands, they went bust, and the March Violets album never got properly released. I think they did press up some copies of the CDs for the crowdfunders that participated in it, but there was never a general release. And I actually didn't order the album at the time because I didn't actually know it was happening until kind of after the event. I kind of, you know, stayed away from the goth thing for a few years and didn't really take too much attention. But anyway, 2023, and the album has been released. Now, if you read about it online, they always wanted to do it as a double album, 4 sides, 4 tracks on each side, and this is it. Now, on Record Store Day itself, this album I saw sold advertised at various prices online, and I did look at some prices in shops, and the price seemed to vary between about £25 and £40 depending on who was trying to sell it. I do think some of the higher prices were the shops and the retailers just trying to put a markup. However, about a week after Record Store Day, I was able to purchase this shipped for £21 plus shipping. So yeah, about £26 shipped, I think, altogether. And so I got the LP. Now, the other Record Store Day release that I have bought is something that I scoffed at when I first saw it coming out, and that was this. This is the Record Store Day re-release of the Sisters of Mercy Reptile House EP. Now, this is one of the most famous, iconic British goth releases, really. It's, you know, it's an absolutely superb record. It's, you know, this is the dark side of the moon for the goths, really. It is just such a great, it's 5 tracks, but it's absolute core music of that genre. Now, every retailer that had this on Record Store Day were charging between 40 and 42 in that order pounds for this. It's a 5-track EP. This is a double album and half the price of this exactly. However, I did find a shop that were doing these for a lot less. And even though it was more than I think it's probably worth, I did pay £27 for this. Anyway, what we're going to do is I'm going to take them out, we're going to have a look at the records, and I'm going to possibly just give this a spin. Let's take a look at the March Violets first, and I'm going to use the obligatory plectrum to just open the... Just before I open it up, we'll quickly look at the hype sticker, and you can see it's a limited edition 2LP, the March Violets, the difficult first album made glorious first time on vinyl. Or it's also the first time of a proper official mainstream release as well. So yeah, let's get the sleeve open. And it's a nice matte finish sleeve. You know, it's not shiny or anything, it's a nice matte finish sleeve. Now let's open this up, and I think I'm going to see something I'm very pleased about. Yes, indeed. The first thing I'm going to mention is the records are not inside the sleeve. They have been put in separately. This is something I wish all records did, because you don't get any ring wear on the sleeve. So Jungle Records, you get a 10 out of 10 and a bonus point for doing that. Now, let's look at the records first this time. And poly-lined inner sleeves. They have not scrimped on this at all. Poly-lined inner sleeves, and they've kept the records. So that's a great sign. And here's our album, purple vinyl. Looks rather nice. Let's have a look at the edge. Are there any warps or anything? No, that's absolutely flat as a pancake. And yeah, it looks very nice. I mean, to be fair, Jungle Records are an independent label. They've been around a very long time. They've specialised in this type of music for a very long time. And I've always found their product manufacturing quality to have been, you know, pretty good. And certainly they would have been one of the labels that had my band, All Living Fear, not just put our own stuff out. If we had signed to anyone, it would have been a very high offer that we would probably want to go with somebody like Jungle just because of their product quality. But yeah, the second album, again, no warp. It's got a good weight, I'd say probably 120, 130 grams. But then, you know, the vinyl doesn't need to be 180 gram all the time. I mean, I've got Dynaflex records from the 70s that are really, you know, you hold it in your hand like that, and the record would just fall either side, and, you know, sounds great. Anyhow, so the records are very good. Now, let's look at the sleeve, and we got some great photos on the sleeve, and some live shots there, and my friend Mel Butler took that one, looking at the credit, and yeah, nice. It's always good to see decent colour photos of a band on a record sleeve. You know, call it old-fashioned, but you know, I like to see good photos. And then on the back sleeve, got another nice black and white photo there with all the track listings and all the usual stuff. Now, we also have a lyric sheet, and yeah, nothing too flashy, just the lyrics and a photo in the corner. So yeah, I think this is a really nice product. I think Jungle Records it's a nice sleeve. I like the design of the artwork. You've got high quality photos on it, and this is definitely worth getting if you want to get the new March Violets album. And by the way, I have heard the songs on the album, and it's a good record. So I would thoroughly recommend getting this. And I do know that Jungle Records have now got this on catalogue, and you can buy it from their website, and you can probably buy it from most other retailers as well. So certainly probably for around about 25 quid, a really good value double album that has had a lot of thought into the manufacturing quality. Now then, The Sisters of Mercy, the Reptile House EP. This is, as I said, an iconic recording. The hype sticker says Record Store Day exclusive 40th anniversary edition, 180 gram grey smoked vinyl. Now, yes, it is. It's 40 years old, this record, although I kind of got my copy originally in the late 80s because it did get reissued. I think around about the time of Floodland, they reissued all the early stuff. But this is the first, reissue since then. And if we look at the back, you can kind of see it's fairly faithful to the original, apart from having a barcode at the bottom, and it's got the Warner Music logo on there. And yeah, we'll open this one up and take a look. Now, one weird thing with this release, when I was reading all the preamble about it, is it had credited it to being on Parlophone Records, which I thought was really odd, because obviously Parlophone were part of EMI, and the sisters were always connected with Warner, who would then ultimately be, they are one of the biggest record labels in the world, but they're nothing to do with EMI and never have been. So it'll be interesting to see what label it does have on the disc. But anyway, we've got this open now, and we'll pull out everything that's inside. Now, we have, well, that's nice. We get a reprint of the original inner sleeve of the record. And yeah, nothing on the back, but yeah, the insert lyric sheet looks pretty authentic. I'm surprised they kept the address there, because I don't know who might live there now, but I do wonder if they get letters for Andrew Eldritch from that address. But yeah, it's got the lyrics in that classic, was it Carlson antique font, I think, and yeah, recorded at Kenny Giles Studios in Bridlington, where the March Violets also recorded all their early stuff. But yeah, no, it's nice to have the lyric sheet, because this was only on the original version, it wasn't on the reissue. Now, here's our record, and polylined in the sleeve again, that's a good sign. The label looks pretty much the same, and yeah, the label on that side looks pretty much the same. So they just reprinted those, and again, there's nothing about Parlophone on here at all, so I think that was obviously Record Store Day made a mistake. But this is the great reveal. That's our disc, and I gotta say, it really reminds me more than anything of a late 90s bootleg, because a lot of bootlegs were being pressed on this sort of funny coloured sort of grey marbly effect vinyl. Now let's look at the edge. Oh dear, is that warped? It's hard to tell, but it feels like it could be a bit warped. I'm going to shove it on the deck in a minute, we'll have a look. But yeah, that's the record. But let's pop it on the turntable and just see how it plays. Okay, my camera's actually free held at the moment just because it's easier. And you can see the record's actually pushing up. And if I push it down, it sort of goes down, but then it rises up again. So there is definitely a warp but it's like a sort of circumferential warp. Is that even a word? It's sort of dished like that, which isn't so good. If I turn the deck on and we look at the edge, I mean, it's not going up and down. Well, it is a little bit, I suppose. But yeah, it's not great, it has to be said. Now, I can't really play much of the audio. In fact, I'm just going to turn it down on my amp. But what I can tell you is that the sound quality is very, very good. It does sound excellent. It sounds lots of deep bass on it, and yeah, it's really enjoyable. And I can also tell you there's no clicks or bumps or crackle in between tracks either. It's just a very well pressed record. So it was expensive, but I think the sound quality is certainly, well worth it. And to my ears, it sounds better than what they used on the Some Girls Wander by Mistake CD as well. Okay, so there we have it then. We've got 2 Record Store Day releases, and I think on this occasion, they both deliver really well. I think they're both well manufactured records. The artwork's good, the printing is good, and the sound quality is good. So if you were in doubt about getting either of these, and I certainly would hold out at the moment on this one, because like I said, I paid £27 for this rather than £42, and a lot of shops still have this in stock. So I wouldn't mind guessing we might get this under the £20 mark at some point in the future. Certainly if you buy it from America, that's how much it was anyway. So, you know, it might even come a bit lower than that, who knows. But if you don't own this on vinyl, or you want to replace your own vinyl listening copy with a better one, I certainly think the sound on this is very, very good and well worth getting. But anyway, that's it for now. So thanks for watching. If you like these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one.